So Logan is just healing it up, and then he's hit with a crossroads, and Cody eliminates Logan Paul, bringing it down to Cody and the number one entrant, Gunther. Number one versus number 30. And they had an outstanding fight. Like usually the final two, it's pretty quick, and you've got a fever pitch from the crowd. But they worked like a mini match here, and I thought it was really, really intense between the two. Yeah. We saw a Cody cutter hit. Gunther ends up taking a dragon screw through the rope, and then Cody sets him up in the corner and hits Shattered Dreams full on with the gold dust mannerisms. And
does that say anything to you?
In terms of what?
Well, I mean, I guess that there's discussion of Dustin Rhodes' contract possibly being due soon. Not that this would, signify anything, but he chose a very specific spot for a very specific, heavily watched moment in this particular match to tease.
I'm sure it might get that discussion out there of like Dustin Rhodes being, hired as like a coach or a producer. I really don't see him coming in. Like, I think his performing days are winding down.
But the occasional performance role like he's got in AEW perhaps. But yeah, like this might, just kind of jumpstart that discussion a little bit more.
So they're battling by the apron, and then the last symphony attempt is countered into a crossroads, and Cody clotheslines him out 71 minutes and 41 seconds, and he points to the sign, and Michael Cole says, "From dashing to Stardust to the main event of WrestleMania." The trinity of the Cody Rhodes story. Those three. That's the straight line.
Yeah, I
dashing
so.
Stardust, Mania headliner.
Right,
big gap between Stardust and Mania headliner.
Well, I will say, like, he is kind of still playing the AEW character. Like, it's the same guy. So, like, Cole's verbiage was more so referencing gimmick changes. I felt, but what did you want him to say, John? The guy who headlined put together All In. What else?
Yeah, just if you're going to include dashing and Stardust. But this was a great ending to the Rumble. I thought overall I don't think that this was top tier of Royal Rumbles, but I thought like there was like solid maybe like upper third. Like I thought this was an entertaining match overall. You had a lot of different angles throughout the match, which I always like. The fact that you come out of this with several different directions, whether it be, Brock with Lashley that we already knew, Rollins and Logan Paul. You had, Gunther, we don't really have who he's paired with, but a lot of options. And I think his stock comes out so great as a result of this. I thought Dominic was handled really well. So there was a lot here, and you had a winner that this audience embraced and took as a big deal.
Yeah. The biggest risk I felt was, whether or not people would have gravitated towards Cody Rhodes as that big favorite by the end, because there are distractions out there in a Sami Zayn, because Cody Rhodes has been away from TV for so long, and this showed me that those concerns we shouldn't have really had those concerns, because I thought they achieved everything they wanted to with Cody Rhodes here. As far as the Rumble match goes, I thought the first third was pretty forgettable overall. The second third I thought was really highlighted by the really unpredictable energy of a Brock Lesnar run-in. Even though he only lasted, like 2 minutes? I mean, him getting pissed off because he only lasted 2 minutes was the show. Him freaking out and just like throwing shit around that only Brock Lesnar could throw around. I thought it was tremendously entertaining. And then you did great work with Judgment Day versus Edge and Beth Phoenix. Dominic, I thought, especially had, a wonderfully charismatic performance. And I did not think I would be saying that for a long time. Logan Paul, I thought, had a pretty good showing. Spot of the night goes to him and Ricochet. And, you set up a real, pretty big match, I would say, with Seth Rollins. But, the talk coming out of this will be remembered for two people, and that's Cody Rhodes and Gunther. I thought the final stretch was fantastic, and the aspect I love the most is that it made Gunther look incredible even in losing, by the sheer fact that he lasted, from, what is it, number one to 29th, Great performance by him, great final stretch here, and sets up a lot in motion for WrestleMania and beyond.
Yeah, and a lot of times with the Rumble, it's going to be that final 5 minutes that people are going to put the most stock into. And I think both matches greatly benefited from like strong finishes to the matches. And then Raquel goes for a Tejana bomb on Ripley. They land on the apron. Ripley eliminates Rodriguez. So it is down to Ripley, Liv, Asuka, and Nikki Cross. Liv sends out Nikki Cross, and then we get the final three. And I thought this was the best of the whole match, was these three at the end. They're all fighting on the edge. Asuka sprays the blue mist. Ripley ducks, and it hits Liv in the face, and it allows Ripley to nail Asuka, eliminating her. And then Liv tries to send Ripley out, who is holding on to the top rope. Her legs are dangling, and then she pulls herself up and head scissors Liv, who took a hell of a bump to the floor, for an awesome ending elimination. And Ripley runs the table 61 minutes and 8 seconds, and then started off a brand new trend. She waved at the WrestleMania sign.
Oh, you waved. Okay.
She waved.
Well, yeah, I'm sure the sign
Looky here, Tomohiro Ishii biting the rope.
Yes, that's right, yeah. I mean, it's rude to point, so I'm sure the sign appreciates a nice wave once in a while. Really good final three. To me, the rest of the Rumble was largely formulaic and pretty forgettable.
I thought it was a pretty underwhelming Rumble until the end. It was just names showing up. Yeah. It was not a whole lot of interesting stories going on or interactions. It was to me like a lot of women that they have signed but have not done a whole lot with, and this kind of match exposes that. And it was when Roxanne Perez is one of your big standouts. It's like that. It was like a Tegan Nox has been on the roster for months, and not to just pick on Tegan, there were plenty of them that are just not regularly featured, and then you see them in this, and like really, you had maybe 3 to 4 people at best that you could have any believability, and that's probably high.
I think it points to maybe, one of the bigger disappointments of the Paul Levesque era, something that I would have really expected to change just given his track record in NXT. And that's the lack of, real development of the women's division. One after another, you have these names come in and none of them feel special. Look at a Michin, Mia Yim. Coming in here. Look at a Shotzi. Look at a Xia Li. There's so many women on these rosters that will make.
And there's only more. Like now you've got Chelsea Green, you've got Nia Jax, like you're going to have
Nikki
call-ups.
Cross. Like they kind of jumpstart little bits of intrigue with them on these programs, and then they're completely dropped whatsoever. Even Liv Morgan, they've been teasing. The only story going into this Women's Rumble has been Liv Morgan teasing that she wants to be number 1, and we haven't seen her in 3 weeks, continue that story. So by the time you finally got to the match, it's one after another of completely uninteresting and competitors that you just can't buy winning. The person who's developed the most, under Levesque and the women's division has been Rhea Ripley, and she's stayed completely out of the women's division. So what does that tell you? I think it's a real, wake-up call. It should be, for just how little they put into the women's division as of late.